Hello everyone, it is Will and Carter back again. We are here. It is Friday, thank goodness. We are
Yeah.
5-6 hours now out from the first game of the lock-in tournament. Very exciting stuff. I am less excited about this team. Carter's
Um,
Carter's excited to talk about Immortals, hence his jersey. But
uh,
uh,
I have a story for
but
you.
uh, I eh, that's kind of
Yeah,
my fit.
that's
I
fair.
could be wrong, but
Yeah. So to give you the context for the jersey itself, in case you only been following the LCS in recent years, Immortals were a team that played just before franchising happened, when we still had the relegation system. I forget what year that last year was, but they were playing still then, and were not approved of a spot, despite being a really, really top team at the time. Uh, they had come into the LCS like 2 years beforehand. They had signed Hooney, got Hooney to play for them in his prime. They had got Rainover, one of the best junglers in the league. Uh, Pobelter, Wild Turtle, and well, who was the support? The support was
Adrian.
Adrian.
Yeah.
Yeah, that roster was like got top three in the playoffs, but was first place coming out of them. They went 17-1 that whole season. That was one of the craziest rosters we had seen in North America at the time. Uh, Afterwards, they had rebuilt, got second place with a roster of Flame in the top lane, Xmithy in the jungle, Pobelter still at mid, Cody Sun AD carry, and Ole support. This roster has been so awesome for so long. They then didn't get a spot in relegation and eventually integrated with OpTic Gaming, and things have never really felt great with them since,
Mhm.
honestly.
Mhm.
Uh, we can start talking about the players themselves. And one of the biggest signings that Immortals was kind of touting was their jungler over here, Xerxes. Uh, and to be frank, coming from the days when we had Rainover, who was great, and we even had a good Dardoch season, we had Xmithy beforehand. I don't love Xerxes here. He's a top three, top four jungler in Europe, which
Mhm.
to that credit, that is arguably a more competitive region than North America. You have players like you have G2 and Fnatic who are always like doing crazy well. So maybe this guy is some level of good, but the
Yep.
jungle talent this year is so stacked. So I really just can't I cannot like find it within myself to overestimate this guy and to like really think we got something great here when junglers this year look incredible. And I don't think Xerxes will be bad. I just don't think he outpaces any jungler, almost any jungler that I see here.
Yeah, it's kind of like Perks came to NA and everyone lost it.
Yeah.
Xerxes came over and I forgot about it. And it's kind of just it's that. I think he's going to do well, but it's a high bar this year. I don't know how well
Mhm.
he can do. It's one of those things. Like you said, top 3 or 4 jungler in EU, but most recently, maybe we can talk about the team flopping there. Kind of like how he had Alfari on his team, so maybe it's Alfari as well, where they just got.
Alfari came to Liquid, buddy.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I'm saying. Maybe they just left EU because Origins
I
got
see, I
10th
see.
place in the summer, LEC summer.
I got
So
you.
maybe Xerxes was just ready to try and make something happen, but ending up on Immortals doesn't feel like the way to do it. My opinion of this as we go through this is kind of just like they were looking to build somehow, but it kind
Yeah.
of ended up being accidentally like, hey, maybe actually we're a dark horse team, but that didn't quite get there. And so
Some
now we're
like
here, and that's kind of how I feel about Xerxes too, right? Compared
yeah.
to all the other junglers we have, um, and kind of bounce off that is when I think about them trying to suddenly be a dark horse is Raze in the ADC lane. I know that's kind of jumping around from jungle to
Mhm.
ADC, but
No, it's fine.
um, Raze is a very impressive ADC. He was someone who a lot of casters actually noted during Worlds this past year because he was just he's always dangerous. I think he's always noted likes the esports. He kind of killed it. He's well known as
Yeah.
a good ADC,
You know
and
who he
now he's
used to
here.
play against back in the OPL? He used to play against guys like FBI like all the time and was still
Yeah,
placing well. So like that kind of gives me a level of talent to like compare him to is like this guy in maybe FBI's absence has been winning a lot in OPL, but that kind of makes me a little more confident in this signing, if I'm being honest. We've seen time and time again top OPL talent coming over and killing it in North America. We're seeing
yeah,
Cloud9 opt to go with Fudge in the top lane. We're now seeing I mean, we've always seen FBI for a while. We
yep,
see Lost coming back into ADC, who was a really interesting player.
yep.
Uh I kind of love the OPL signings. I think they're really interesting. We've seen like the OPL cultivate a lot of great talent. And I think Raze has shown to be a great talent on this team. It kind of comes back to me, like we were saying, I don't think he's better than Tactical. I don't
Mm,
think he's better than FBI.
mm.
I don't think he'll be better than Sven or Wild Turtle. But like some of these other guys, like Neo, definitely, maybe Johnson. I wouldn't say Johnson. Probably Stixay. And maybe even Lost on TSM, I could see this guy doing really well against, and maybe even being better then. He just hasn't like have that North American experience yet, but I wouldn't count him out as a really good AD carry.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely one of the better signings and something that's exciting. It's one of those like, hey, we might be a dark horse and like actually think about it with Rays. And kind of going off of that, someone else who originally was coming from the OPL has been a couple years in EU and now, or sorry, 1 year in EU and now is NA is Destiny, and he's actually been support to Rays before. Um, that's kind of exciting, to be honest. They
They
actually
played
have a
on
chance to get some synergy.
oh, yeah, they
Um,
played on Chief Esports together, along with one Ryoma, who in North America did not work out so well. But he had done very well in a lot of OPL seasons alongside Rays. I think Immortals were touting this is the first full OPL bot lane that the league has ever seen. And I think it'll be really interesting. I don't think we've seen a whole lot of looking over my players here. We don't see a whole lot of OPL supports come over that often. A lot of times they're imported from more like what are considered top regions like Korea and China right now. Uh,
mm,
so I'm interested to see how this goes. I'm interested in the full OPL bot lane experiment. If I have to make a call whether I think it'll work or not is another story. I don't love their odds against some of these other top bot lanes, but I
yeah,
think they could be a dark horse bot lane.
yeah, I think synergy matters, and that could definitely help them out. Um, yeah, we've kind of said it, or you said it before yesterday, where it's just, wow, the support pool is actually kind of great after we've talked about all these teams,
Mhm.
and I just don't know how Destiny stacks up to that. I think
Yeah,
that's going to be really
exactly.
tough. But kind of moving forward, we have someone who's NA his whole career, albeit kind of short career. We have Insanity, who popped in 2020 season halfway through to replace the Immortals mid laner.
Ica.
Yeah, and that actually, if you remember, the whole roster was actually switched. The whole team went down to
It was their
Academy, and
academy
Academy came
roster.
up.
They switched out.
Yeah, so Insanity is one of those. He actually didn't do badly when he came
No,
up, all
I
things
mean,
considered.
yeah, you could definitely see that there was like room for him to improve. But he did kind of save Immortals this season. They were still a 10th. I mean, that's even like hard to say because they were still a 10th place team even with this new roster. Uh, but they were winning games, and they did not do that before they had Insanity starting. So
Yeah,
like if you look at like Insanity's like percentage of like decent games when he was kind of on that Immortal squad,
yeah.
excuse me, when he like finally got to playing, I don't think he looks too bad. It's just like I don't like I like Palafox more than I like Insanity right now. I'm more comfortable with Demonte or Pobelter even. Even like Saligo
Mm.
has more experience. I don't know if Saligo will be better than Insanity. I actually think Insanity is kind of someone we could be easily sleeping on. It's just like looking at the paper, looking at the results, looking at the levels of play we see. I just don't think Insanity does it for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that it's it's tough, right? So he won 4 games in LCS summer, and those were against Golden Guardian, so he beat Demonte. It was against TSM, so he beat Bjergsen. that's tough to say because TSM had its own problems in the summer.
Yeah.
It beat CLG, which is I don't even remember who the mid laner was, and
Oh my God, it
Dignitas.
was maybe Pobelter at
What
that time if it was late in the season.
was it Pobelter back then?
It was either Pobelter or
Yeah, it is
Brown.
Pobelter. It is Pobelter, so that's pretty impressive. And Dignitas, which is Phoenix, which is whatever. Um, and those wins are important, right? Like winning against mid laners like that or playing well into them, it matters. I just back back to kind of how I feel about this roster from the beginning. You're kind of a build, you're kind of a dark horse, and it's just like I don't see
Yeah.
anything exciting about this. I don't see anything where
Uh,
you're really like maybe Insanity is the new talent and he just needs a little bit more time. But it doesn't feel like Golden Guardian suddenly going with Niles and Iconic in the top jungle, right? It just it kind of misses that mark for me.
make that comparison. I actually have one piece about this that I am particularly excited about, and I think I'm excited about Raze as well as this actually. But Revenge in the top lane is kind of an interesting story. This guy is a completely fresh face
Mm,
to the LCS at least. I don't think he's had many academy performances before this. I could be completely incorrect with that, but he got rank 1 on the North American ladder recently, and this kind of method of scouting talent I think is a lot better than the Golden Guardians method of going through collegiate. I think they have the chance to make Revenge a really really strong talent through cultivating his many skills. He got rank 1 on the you can argue how competitive it is with toxicity reasons that don't really fit in this conversation, but rank 1 is pretty competitive. You have a lot of these players who like live in North America. A lot of these players you see
yeah.
on this roster playing North American solo queue and like fighting for rank 1. And Revenge can hang with them at least in a solo queue setting. So I guess we'll see if that can be honed into a really really good competitive top laner. I don't really doubt his talents for that reason, and I think maybe he could be a top laner with a decent amount of ability to upset, but like even still, even if you can consider that he can upset, I don't think he's upsetting Alfari. I don't think he's upsetting Someday. I don't think he's upsetting even like Licorice or Impact even. Uh
Yeah.
but it could be interesting. It could be more interesting than kind of the strict matchup chart might make it seem.
Yeah, so for Revenge, instead of looking really at his stats I think he did FlyQuest for 1 year Academy.
Okay, okay.
Um, Instead of looking there, I think it's a lot more useful to look at it, weirdly enough, at his solo queue records, and how he really did there, and what champions he's really good at in the top lane. And they're solo queue champions, right? So I can list off some of them. They're Jace, Lucian, Camille, Vladimir, Akali, Aurelia, Set. These are not team champions. There is no Ornn there, right? Um, I think that's kind of good. We've been looking for that. Top lane is more of an island than most places. We're seeing a lot of the bot lane dive where the jungler goes down there, they hang out by Krugs afterwards, then they repeat bot lane gank slash dives 2 or 3 times in a row. Top lane is a pretty big island right now, unless you're really a Herald specific game. And a rank 1 top laner who's really good at carry champs might be what you want to kind of upset the balance. Um, at least that's the
I
way I
mean,
look at it. And
yeah, I totally agree. Another thing that I kind of look at is like
yeah,
particularly how solo queue works in terms of like the skills. To do well in solo queue, you need a lot of mechanical skill, which is really interesting for me looking at these other top laners because not everyone here is like known for their mechanical skill. Impact is more known for his like team fight prowess and his like consistency than he is for necessarily technical skill. I
hmm,
think in recent years, players like I'm just going back through, Huni can be prone to like technical blunders. I think I don't know Finn well enough to know, but like, or I don't know Finn's playstyle particularly well enough to like make that call definitively. That is,
yeah,
but I think Revenge probably coming from solo queue has a lot of technical skill that could surprise a lot of people.
yeah, absolutely. And I think so. It's kind of gotten to that point where I think that would be my pick, right, for my fantasy team. who on Immortals do I trust to kind of pop off? I mean, it's got to be Revenge in my mind, right?
Yeah,
Insanity did pretty well. Great. Xerxes, I don't see too much coming out of this in a jungle heavy league. Raze would be my other one. I've got to say, Raze is
yeah,
definitely a top tier. I don't want to overlook that, but I think there are a lot of there are a fair number of good options. And Destiny can definitely help him out. But kind of like you, I at least in the top lane too. If I think it might be an island, I really like Revenge here. For my pick, I think he might pop off, try and be the carry, and then you know, if you're trying to get the most
yeah.
points on your team,
That's
that's
fair.
a good top laner. It's not
I
bad at
mean,
all.
you praise him as number two, but my pick would honestly be going with Rays this season. I
Hmm.
think kind of the top lane talent right now. Blah. Sorry about that. Revenge definitely slots in very well to like the
Yeah,
top lane matchups this season.
yeah,
But Rays is someone who I give a lot of genuine potential to be like a dark horse AD carry. Just like comparing him to these, he is an OPL top talent, and OPL talent clearly translates to North American success. It's almost like in some ways I think of him as the new FBI of like FBI comes to North America from OPL after dominating there, and look where
yeah.
FBI is now, arguably the best AD carry
The
in
LCS.
North America playing.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a 0% chance that Rays ends up at that power level. I think certainly the experiment could not pander. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe he just keeps losing to FBI, like it seems like a lot of his matches have shown. But I think Rays genuinely has the potential to turn some heads here, and
yeah.
he's gonna be my pick.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. And, it starts off this weekend, so we get to see some of this very, very soon.
Yep.
And should be a good time. I think that we're gonna the Immortals team has an easier group this weekend. They have okay, I'm starting this off on the wrong foot. They have Cloud9, which is tough.
They just need to not be the last.
But they need to
Everyone but
not
the
be
last.
last. And there's Dignitas, there's Evil Geniuses, there's FlyQuest. I think this squad can beat all of those. Um, it's just a
I
question
think this
of
squad could do it over Dignitas in particular. I
yeah,
don't necessarily know if I give it to him, but yeah, it's a little more that group's a little more interesting.
yeah. I think that Group A is better to watch in a way because I think it's a better average team. But Group B, I mean,
But
uh,
watch both if you
yeah,
got the time.
they got they've got some options. Cloud9 definitely getting a nice easy Nemesis draft here with Group B, but yeah, I think Immortals will make it out. We'll get to see some bracket play from them later on next couple weeks. It should be a good time. But anyway, I think that's all we got for today. Talk to you guys very, very soon. We're going to be watching this. We might throw up some streams, bring out some new content, reviewing some of the best matches from this weekend. So head on your keep your head on the swivel for that. And yeah, other than that, happy Friday. Have a great weekend.